In December 2009, youth from 5 United Methodist churches in the Northern Illinois Conference journeyed to New Orleans to help with the ongoing rebuilding efforts after Hurricane Katrina. Let's welcome Reverend SIRCHESTER Jackson, pastor of Mandell United Methodist Church, along with Samantha Martin from St. Mark United Methodist Church and OMARI Roberts from Resurrection United Methodist Church. So a couple of you have been to New Orleans more than once, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Samantha Martin and myself traveled to New Orleans in about 2007 to help rebuild.
And what made you decide to go back a second time?
The first time I went, it was life-changing for me because I visited New Orleans once. It was just a stop in the middle of a trip long before the hurricane, and just to see it before and afterwards, walking on the same streets that I walked before when I was 12 years old, and just to see how it was devastating. Like, it made me realize the things that I take for granted and the people that I take for granted.
Okay.
And getting a chance to be able to go again and be able to help somebody, because this is, you know, it's one thing to do something for somebody, but if you know that you had an impact on somebody's life and that those people will remember you for the rest of their lives, it's something to take with you, something to die happy with.
Do you see hope? Do you see positive change?
And it was actually surprising. Even the place that we stayed in the first time when we went, it was vacant now and demolished, and funding is running out. It seems that right after the hurricane in 2005, there was a great influx of support. And somewhere in the next 3 or 4 years, people had forgotten all about New Orleans. And it seemed that everybody was withdrawing. And I know that we have other issues around the world,
right,
around the different countries, but to go back and see that New Orleans was virtually still the same was really troubling and problematic.
Well, and thank goodness young people with energy are still willing to go and volunteer. OMARI, what did you think of New Orleans?
I loved it. I loved the hospitality, just the different people that we met, and just to know that they were just like us. You know, it's a far distance in miles between Chicago and New Orleans, but it's the same thing that you see here, the same people, and to help them makes it even better.
And what kinds of things were you able to do on this trip?
My group, we gutted the house, so that was pretty fun. I got to take out some anger, and just knock some things down, so it was fun.
Okay. Well, my group, the house that we worked on was already gutted out, and it was freezing cold, and we were, by the end of the week, it wasn't cold anymore because we did the insulation, and we had fiberglass stuck everywhere, but it was worth it. They thought it was funny when we came back itching. We was the only group that came back itching when we came back to sleep.
What affected you most? What did you bring back with you, do you think?
Both times I went, I met the people whose homes that we were working on, and the woman whose house we worked on the last time I went, she was so, even though she had been through so much devastation, she wasn't devastated, if I can say that.
Okay. Because
she had, you know, she was hurting, but she didn't hesitate to tell us what she had been going through, and didn't hesitate to call on God and, you know that it was things that were working for a reason. She had been through illness, and she survived illness that she didn't think she was going to survive, and she survived this hurricane, and she still had her daughter with her, and it's something that I might have needed to see. So it's something to remember when I feel like everything's going wrong, or I feel like stuff that I'm going through is just not good enough. But here's this woman who's lost everything, and all she has left is her family, all she has left is her family and God, and that's just something that will just stay with me for the rest of my life.
Our second house that we went to, it was a lady that we got a chance to meet and to sit down and to talk with her, and she was just so happy and so thankful, and it kind of surprised me because we had came to her house to put up some drywall in her 2 bathrooms, and we weren't able to do that because of the materials. So we ended up just cutting her grass and just sitting around talking. She had made us something to eat, and it was just a blessing to see how happy she was, just to see some people come down to show that they cared about her and to help her.
Even without the drywall.
Even without the drywall.
Your presence.
Yeah.
So these trips are one part of what the Youth and Young Adult Initiative is taking on.
Yes.
What about when you come home?
The Youth and Young Adult Initiative is chaired by an awesome and dynamic pastor, Reverend Dwayne Grant, the pastor of Resurrection United Methodist Church.
Yes.
And he's put together a great staff of pastors and leaders. And our whole focus is to have our youth grow spiritually, but also to understand how it's not an individual process in growing closer to God, but how you can affect change in your community, which affects the entire world. And so jumping or springboarding off the mission trip to New Orleans, we plan annual lock-ins.
Okay.
This is our second annual lock-in that we just had on Friday. And the first thing was about how do we let God love us? How do we open ourselves up to God? And so we used the theme from a Chicago artist, Kanye West,
yes.
and it was called Love Lockdown. And so that was last year. And this year, now that we understood last year, how do we go into God's love? This year we decided to go with the theme of Holler Back, which was how do we, now that we know that God loves us so much and that God's invitation is always for us, how do we respond to that? And the mission trip is a perfect example of how we sow into God's love in the world.
And the action piece of it. Mm-hmm. How was the lock-in? You guys look pretty well rested, actually, for having probably been up all night Friday.
Especially to get away from, you know, the normal aspects of life. It's always fun for me to be around other people of faith, other people who believe in what I believe in. And it's just something that strengthens my growth process, because I could be anywhere else on a Friday night from 8 o'clock to 8 o'clock in the morning, you know, and and to be honest, I would rather be there more than anything.
That's great to hear. What kinds of things did you do?
Well, first we just congregated, and because sometimes we don't see each other as often, so it's always good just to come back and be around people that you know and you love. So we pretty much had conversations for the first couple of hours, and everybody arrived. After that, we had a service, a nightly service that we had, and some of the youth participated in those roles of the regular service, and we had a pastor who came and preached, and that was great. That was life-changing for me, especially. I felt like I received something that he was saying spiritually that I was able to take in and think about first, and
terrific,
to plan out how I would grow from there. After that, we had some food, some great food.
Spiritual food and then real food.
Yes, to continue on for the rest of the night. After that, we broke into group sections that were led by youth group counselors, just to get to know better the other people, get to know them better.
Okay.
After that, we played Bible Jeopardy.
Very good.
Within our groups, but against the other groups.
We actually also have a BMCR YPC that stands for Young People's Choir, and I'm a part of that. And during the service, it was, you know, we weren't planning to sing, but all of us happened to be there, and we just got up and we sung a few songs. And it's always, you know, because most of us, like even before the trip and stuff, we knew each other from all types of different things that we get together and do. People have different events at different churches, you know. People have been to different churches, been parts of different churches. He used to be part of my church and brought me into the church. So it's a real family-like experience. And
like
it's a huge thing to have so many people, but to know all of these people and to have them stand by you and have them, and to see them in all these other different things that are so life-changing for you. It's just, like he said, it's not just a growth process for individuals, it's a growth process for all of us.
Thank you, Reverend Jackson, Samantha, and Omari for being here today. I'm Polly Troner for Different Drummers. Keep the faith.